How's everybody doing out there? Here we are again. What am I doing here? I'm getting this out of the way. Here we are once again. I think we're actually, look back there. I got we're playing in the background now. So what are we up to today? We are going to be sharing, all the listeners are going to be sharing some of their best tips and tricks. That's what's going on there. That's what's going on there. And we are there we go. I wanted to put that frame up there. Now that I'm getting used to doing this, hey, look, I don't have a crew. I don't have 12 people running around like some people do, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. When I worked at the National Archives in Washington, D.C., we had a very, very large AV crew for live production. We had government staff. We had some of our own stuff. So nothing wrong with that. But this is not that. This is Final Cut TV. Final Cut TV. That's what this is. And you know what my name is, right? Who knows my name? Does anybody know my name? Does anybody out there know my name? I'll tell you. My name is Richard Taylor. Of course. Of course. Let me just move that up a little bit. Preview mode. I'm going to pull it up just out of frame and then publish. There we go. Back to live mode. Here we go. So we got a few, I've got about a dozen tips or tricks, and if I think of more along the way, I'll present them. I've got a dozen today. I have dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of tips and tricks, but today I've got about a dozen. Some you might know, some you might not know. We got our first comment from Roz. Hello, Richard Taylor. Hello, Roz Humphreys. How are you doing today? Glad you could join in. Now, last week I did a Final Cut Friday. This week I did not because I have an appointment tomorrow at 2 o'clock. So I can't do a Final Cut Friday tomorrow. That's all right. Look, there's not much going on out there, is there, in the world of Final Cut Pro? January is probably the worst month for any news on Final Cut compared even... It's probably just the same as the summer is. It's very, very, very slow Final Cut Pro news. I'm coming on to get some Final Cut stuff, have some activity on the web for Final Cut. That's what I'm doing. So nobody else is doing it, so I'm doing it. Everybody else's radio is silent, but we will figure out things to talk about each week as we go along. Today, we're going to do Final Cut tips and tricks. There's also some interesting waves being done in the Final Cut Pro community right now. Future Media Concepts came out 2 weeks ago, and they were talking about specifically the new training that Apple has for Final Cut Pro coming out. Apple and Future Media Concepts both. So that was certainly interesting. That kind of came out of left field. I didn't know that was coming up. And all of a sudden I got an email from Future Media Concepts, conferences. I'm not sure what they call themselves these days. And there's new training for Final Cut coming up. And exams and certification exams, right? Yes, there is. Let me just check this real quick. I'll pull it up here. And then the other thing, here it is here, Final Cut. Oh, it's not there. Here it is. If you haven't heard about this, well, look at this. So this is Future Media Concepts, Future Media Conferences, and new Apple Pro Video training and certifications. They're doing both the training and Final Cut Pro, FCP certified, Social Pro, Video Pro, Post-Production Pro. That's more certifications than they used to have. They used to have one, sometimes they'd have an advanced class. Now they have 3. So this is one of the barometers that you can talk about with Final Cut Pro as far as being active in the field of post-production and video production. That's one. What's the other one that just happened? That's right. Ripple Training put out, they skipped version 5. Their last Final Cut Pro training was version 4. They skipped version 5, and they came right out with version 6. Right? Yes, they did. Now, what I'm curious about is, does that mean there's a new version of Final Cut 6 point something coming out? I think there might be. There seems to be too much activity happening all at once. These two things are pretty big. So this is the, Steve Martin did this, Final Cut Pro 6 core training. Let me pull this over a little bit. There we go. Final Cut Pro 6 core training. There it is. And guess what? Guess what? Final Cut Pro 6 core training. $20 off. FCP Core -20. If you enter that coupon code, you get, so normally it's $79. Normally it's $79. You enter the coupon code FCP Core -20, $20. That's 4 coffees over there at Starbucks or your favorite barista. $20 off right off the bat. So, Steve, you can stream or download instantly, $20 off. This is the other thing that has happened recently that I'm going, what's going on here? No activity on Final Cut from these third parties for years. Ripple Training hasn't updated they didn't bother with version 5. There's nothing there. So far, version 6 has two features. One's a big one, which is the tracking. The second one requires an iPhone 13 cinematic. So it eliminates a lot of Final Cut Pro editors that don't have an iPhone 13. So basically, you got 1 1/4 features in 10.6 so far. Now, I think, this is my thinking, nothing to do with anything that I know. I think that Steve got a head start on this on version 6, and I'm just going to presume there's going to be more coming out in the first half of the year for Final Cut Pro 10.6. But my expectations are still mid-level. They used to be way up here. Now they're mid-level. They're right here. I'm not going to worry about if they don't do anything. If they don't do anything, if they don't put out any updates, that's normal because they haven't done anything for 3 years. For the most part, they have a few things. But if they don't do anything, okay, well, that's kind of expected. If they put out a nice big update, okay, expectations go way up here. So let's see what happens with that. So anybody look, am I going to provide all the tips and tricks today, or is somebody else going to jump in and submit a tip or a trick that one of some of their favorites? All right, let's get started here. I've got Final Cut Pro up. Let me go here. Let me close that. All right. All right, let's do this one. So here we are. Oh, I got to turn that off. Oops, not that one, this one. Here we are in Final Cut Pro. Now, one of the things that they've done in the last, was it 10.5, I think this is one of the features that they did in 10.5. It's been a feature request for a long time, long time. If you right click, you can now edit available columns. Let me pull that down so you can see that. You can edit your columns. So, for example, all these different attributes are there. I mean, there's tons and tons of things. I'm never going to be using anything RA, so I won't put anything like that up there. You can choose aspect ratio. Okay, so the default column set can't be modified. Make copy. And I'm going to call it RT, which is what I always call it. Actually, I use a space RT for my name, Richard Taylor, space RT. Click OK. Oh, you know what? It's not letting me use a space. So anyway, I can choose audio bitrate on and off. I can choose audio on and off. I can choose audio description, audio language, there's audio stuff. Look at all these different customizable browser columns, copyright contrast, copyright year, created by. There's tons and tons of stuff in here that you can choose. So once you choose them, once you choose your perfect browser layout, that's too far. So I don't like start and stop, media duration, maybe, last modified, maybe, video rolls, never use that, never use that. Camera name, yeah, I can pull that over here. I'll pull that over because I use that. And what else do we have? Media start, frame size. I use frame size a lot. So this frame size, for example, 2720 by 1530 is from the drone that I have. That's the drone footage. It's 2K. So let me get finished here. So once you get your perfect layout, everything that you want, you can make different ones for different projects. You don't have to have just one. If you're doing audio, you can have more audio things. If you're doing RE footage, you can have more RE things. So once you get done with your beautiful, beautiful layout, look what we can do now. Save custom set as, we already did that. And you can, well, there it is there. The default is here. You can choose, there's that one, and there's RT. You can save them now. You can save your custom layouts. And one more tip, while we're doing tips, one more tip. Look at this. Reveal in Finder. And there's my column, my custom layout. So you can put it, I always take mine to Dropbox. And I always take mine to iCloud Drive. Now, when I'm somewhere remote and I'm starting on somebody else's machine, first off, you can always go back to the default layout, so that's not a problem. But now I can go and download my custom layouts in Dropbox, or in this case, iCloud Drive, either one, or put them on a flash drive, right? Of course. Tim Whitmore says, my favorite by far is a two-finger double tap in the timeline to make whole timeline fit. So you're talking about on a trackpad, right? You're talking about on a trackpad, double tap on a trackpad. It's like Shift Z on the keyboard, double tap on, yes, he says yes, that's correct, on the trackpad. I use the trackpad sometime. I like kind of both. I like having the trackpad and the mouse because the mouse is more precise for me, but zooming in and out with pinch and zooming is really nice. And you said double tap is really nice. Now, what Final Cut needs, though, is more than one zoom level. 11 years and they have one zoom level. Logic has 3. Logic, you can set 3 different zoom levels. You can customize each one. So I go all the way in, mid-level, and all the way out. And I use those keyboard shortcuts to go between the 3. And also, you can, in Logic, you can scroll up on your, you can go up on your mouse or down with the modifier key. I think it's Option. You can zoom in and zoom out of the timeline. I don't think you can do that in Final Cut. I think you have to use the Z key. Z for zoom. My tip is probably normal for everybody else. Let me get that out of there. Let me put that back. My tip is probably normal for everybody else, but I put my library on an external SSD drive and all my media on different external SSD drives, and my Final Cut Pro never seems to have any slowdowns. So absolutely. So especially, you know, putting media on external drives, but you don't want to put it on an external spinning drive. That's not what you should be doing. If you have, in my case, I have NVMe SSDs. Let me pull this one out. Got my little case here. So I have this one. This is a true Thunderbolt. This is not USB 3.0. This is true Thunderbolt, and it's extremely fast. Now this is an NVMe SSD, and this thing is tiny, as you can see. It's tiny, 2 terabytes, and it's very fast. I think it's like 1,500 megabits per second up to 24, something like that. I also have the Samsung. I have their T3 and T7 somewhere here. Yeah, here's the Samsungs. This is the T7. I have the T7 Samsung, which is also fast, but it's about half the speed of the Thunderbolt one. So now I put my cache on my MacBook Pro. I put my cache here because, let me get over there real quick. Let me get, where am I? There we go. So I put my cache on my MacBook Pro. Let me just turn this on again. On my MacBook Pro because it's very fast. Oh, that was weird. So it's very fast. It's like 2,700 megabits per second, something like that. So there was some discussion about muting a given channel, previous video. Shift-click the line of clips and click V to mute the selection of clips. Is this a reasonable tip? So, you know, you have to mute somebody was asking about muting a track. You can't mute a track in Final Cut, obviously. So you have to mute the roll. No, what it was is if you can select a group of clips and then hit the V key, V will also mute the video. It'll take the video out to both. But if you had just audio, it will mute the audio. Speaking of zoom, Tim Whitmore says, I think it's option that lets you adjust a number in some field with finer adjustments. Yes. So what it is, if you go into the inspector, let's go into the inspector here. Let me pull that up. If you go into the inspector, I'm covering it up actually. Let me turn that off. If you go into the inspector here, and if you use any of these numeric numbers and you want finer increments, if you want to adjust this, for example, down and up, and you want finer adjustment, hold the Option key down and it goes much slower, much finer increments. I don't know if you can see that or not, but that's the way that works. So I'm going to set that back to 0. Okay, we're going to be using that in a minute. So yes, you can use the Option key to do that. Roz says, thanks. Now let's get back to another tip and trick. So that was edit available browser columns and save them in Reveal in Finder to share them in Dropbox or iCloud. Customize them, save, share. So this is another one. Now this one is an oldie because I did this back in, let me see, I did this back in 2011. We talked about this specifically. So if you are, for example, I'm going to go here and I'm going to select, see, I have to, let me go back and first off, if you want to change keyboard shortcuts, commands, I'll go back to my default set because I customize them and the keyboards are not the same. So let's go over here. If I want to use the blade tool to cut this clip up. So I can hit the B key or I can just use the blade tool. So there I go, hit the blade tool, hit the blade tool, hit the blade tool, and then go back and hit the A key or the select tool to go back and do stuff. I'm going to undo that. However, instead of hitting the B key, hold the B key down. See my finger over here? I'm just going to hold it down and watch what happens to the tool. It changes into the scissors tool. And then when I let go of the B key, it changes back to the arrow tool. B key, arrow tool. B key, arrow tool. So this is a tip that I put on LACPUG back in 2011. It's called Momentary Tool Selection. You can do that with any of the other tools. Don't click it. Don't click it. Don't click the B key. Press and hold down. It'll change to the tool, whatever the keyboard shortcut is. And then when you let go, it goes back to the previous tool selection that you had. So mine is always the A key, the selection tool. Momentary tool selection. I have a lot of tips and tricks over there at LACPUG. LACPUG or FCP, used to be FCP. Now it's just LACPUG, not the F has been dropped. F the F. That's what Mike Horton said, F the F. So that's what he did. So here's another one I'm going to show you. Now this one it's pretty popular. I'm going back to my shortcuts. I don't like, so let me show you here. I'm going back. It's very easy to change commands, and there's mine for 2022. So I have those, right? Right. Absolutely. Let me go back to here, and I'm going to turn on, where is that? There it is. Okay. So when you're working with audio, actually, I'm going to turn that off because my audio, I got to get to the panel. So I'm going to bring this a little bit larger. So this is a band that I recorded this year during the COVID, last couple of years. I don't go out and see bands, so I bring bands to my house. I have it set up in this double car garage. They're basically outside. The audience is outside. And this is a group called From the Hills. But so when I work with audio, I like seeing the audio, right? I like seeing it. So one of the ways you can do that, let me see what's going, there we go. That's there. I'm going to bring this back over here. I wanted to get the whole picture. And one of the ways you can see the audio, now listen, this is a request I have for Final Cut, for the Final Cut team. Can you put the search field at the top instead of the bottom? Right now, the search field's all the way down here. It's all the way down here. Can't you put it at the top of this field instead of this one? When I go down here and search, a lot of times it triggers my dock and stuff. So just put the search field at the top of the browser, not way all the way down at the bottom. Anyway, I'm going to search for channel. Oh, I got to go into all. Let me go here. So listen, I'm just going to go to the audio because this is an audio effect. So channel EQ is what I want. I'm going to add this to the clip. Okay. Now here's the thing. I'm going to turn it up.
You did good. You did good. Don't worry. Except for the part where you shot him.
So what I'm going to do now is go up to the inspector, go to the audio tab, and you'll see, don't go to EQ like you might. That's not where it is. Scroll down, go to channel EQ. Okay. Bring this up.
You gotta put up with yourself.
Click on the analyzer tab, and now you can see the frequencies that are being displayed. Now you can do this. You can see the actual frequencies that are in your video. Goes from high to low. So one of the things, if there's a problematic frequency, you'll see a big hump. And you can perhaps counter it by EQing that hump down. That's one of the things that it's useful for. But I like it for that reason alone. Just to be able to watch the frequencies, I can check it. It's a real-time frequency analyzer. And you can do it post-EQ or pre-EQ by clicking here, pre and post. You really can't see it, it's really small. But pre and post, so post-EQ and pre-EQ. And then, of course, you can adjust it if you want to adjust it. Click the different frequencies on or off, boost or cut. But even if you're not using those, turn them off. I still like it just for the analyzer. Now, there's more sophisticated analyzers that you can imagine in like Logic and Pro Tools and Digital Performer and stuff. That's not what Final Cut Pro is, not a digital audio workstation, but it's a nice little EQ. That's from Logic, by the way. It's a channel EQ from Logic. It's one of the things they borrowed from Logic. I wish they'd borrow more things from Logic, but they did not so far, so we'll see how that goes. Let me see what else we have. So when we were down here, when you saw me switch my keyboard shortcuts, go up to the Final Cut Pro menu, they're called Commands, Customize, Import, Export. You can export any of these that you make. This is my old one, Final Cut Pro December 2019. This is one, the copy of this one that I made, Final Cut Pro 2022. I can export them. So once again, there's a command set, and I can put it wherever I want to. I can go to Dropbox, iCloud Drive. I'll save a set there. That way, when I go to California and edit something, I can use somebody else's machine, station, and import my custom keyboard shortcuts. And you always can go back to the default, as you've seen. It's not a problem to go back to the default. Let me see this. Just going to check. Yeah, that's fine. So you can always go back to the default. It's very easy. I got to lock that. Every time you go take the mouse close to it, it jumps around. I'm going to lock it so it doesn't change. And you can always go back to the default. It's very easy. Commands, default. So there you go. There's the default Final Cut Pro commands. This is my custom ones because that's what I use more than anything. All right, so let's keep on moving. So when you're in the browser, I'm going to pull this over, change this. When you're in the browser and you're in icon view, have you ever had a situation where you pull the browser up and it looks like this? And you go, what the heck is this? Now, you can scrub those. You can scrub the clips. You can hit the M key to leave a marker. Undo that. But it's like, what? Look at, I don't know what's going on here, okay? Just use your regular zoom in and zoom out keyboard commands. And you can zoom in and out of the browser icon clips. In case you did not know that. Some people didn't know that, so. All right, what else do we have? Nobody else had. We had 4 tips so far from viewers. I got some more. If you want to bring audio only, video only down from the browser to the timeline, we can do that as well. So the keyboard shortcuts are Shift 1, 2, and 3. Shift 1 is all. Shift 2 is video only. Shift 3 is audio only. So you hit that keyboard shortcut and then you bring the clip down, or you hit that keyboard shortcut. Let me just do this. Let's just try this and I'll bring this down. Oh, it's too short. And I use keyboard shortcuts. I use keyboard shortcuts. It's still too small, so I got to zoom in. And you can see only the audio came down for both of those last 2 clips. No video. So that was Shift 3, and Shift 1 takes you back to all. Shift 1. And Shift 2 is video only. So I'm going to delete those 2. All righty. When you're in the timeline and you click a clip, I'm going to shift Z here. So my playhead's here. If I shift a clip, the playhead does not jump to where I click. It does not jump to where I click. It stays where it was. If I want it to jump to where I click, I hold the Option key. And then it does jump where I click. Option key jumps. Without the Option key, it stays put wherever it was. Interestingly, this used to be exactly the opposite. They used to have exactly the opposite effects. But that's what's going on now. So you can't save things. You can't save something from the timeline to the browser. You can't do it. However, I'm going to get a drink real quick. There's the backyard, Final Cut Pro Radio backyard. There was activity in the bird feeder early, but apparently not right now. Not much anywhere. Anyway, if you have something in the timeline, for example, you've made a custom effect. Yes, you can save effects presets. I know that. But I want it to go back up in the browser to use, and I can drag it for other projects. Make it into a compound clip. When you make it into a compound clip, the compound clip is recreated in the browser library that you're in. So then you have it in the library, not the effects panel. I understand how to do that. That's not a problem. But you also can switch it to the library by making anything, customize title, customize, if you have customized transitions that you want, what you have to do is just take the two clips with the transition. For example, a certain length or certain colors, you change parameters. Take the two clips that have the transition, make them both into a compound clip, and that will go back up into the browser, and then you can have it, open it up, and you can copy that specific transition if you want. Jorge says, hello. Where are you from, Jorge? I'm not familiar where you're from. Let us know. Speaking of, so here's another tip one thing that I like. Let's go back to the browser. So this is Portugal. Jorge says he's from Portugal. Very good. Welcome to the show, Portugal. We got some more tips coming up. So this is a typical scenario. I have all these clips, and each one of these clips has a disclosure triangle with different information in here. If I want to open up all these disclosure triangles or close them, I hit Apple A to select all, and then I hit the right arrow key and it opens them all up, and I hit the left arrow key and it closes them all. Right arrow key opens them, left arrow key closes them. So that's pretty cool. I wish it did what Logic does. Logic, you use the Option key and it opens and closes everything. All selects everything. I mean, it just opens and closes all your disclosure triangles. Speaking of disclosure triangles, this is another tip. This one involves a third-party app. Let me just close everything. There we go. This one involves a third-party app. So you know how to, I'm going to pull this open. You know how to right-click on a library. If you want to get inside the library and pull, you want to find it in the Finder, you know how to do that. So you right-click on the library and choose Reveal in Finder. When you get to the Finder, Final Cut has the library FCP bundle. In order to go inside of that, you have to right-click, Show Package Contents. So it takes you a couple of steps, and now you're inside of the library. But here's another way. Reveal in Finder. Let me show you this. So this is, instead of the Finder, this is Pathfinder. It's a third-party app that I've been using for many, many years. Number one, you can see it has two windows in one side by side. But there's an option in Pathfinder. If I check Treat Packages as Folders, watch what happens to the Final Cut Pro library. Boom. It gets a disclosure triangle. Disclosure triangle. Right there. You don't have to right-click and go to yet another window. It's right there. It's a very simple preference. Treat package as folder. Turns it on, turns it off. So I usually leave it on for most of my windows. It's right there. Now you can't double-click this icon anymore like that. You have to turn it off in order to double-click it. So that's Pathfinder. That's another trick. Any other news in Final Cut Pro, the world of Final Cut Pro out there? It's a pretty boring month so far, except for Future Media Concepts and Ripple Training, who both put out updated, well, Ripple Training has put out their Final Cut Pro 6 core training. They skipped Final Cut Pro 5 completely because there's nothing there. There's hardly anything there, so they skipped it completely. It wasn't worth doing tutorials on. Steve Martin has jumped to version 6, which really, the majority of training from version at 6 is only 2 things in version 6 so far, two features. So obviously he can't do training on just those 2 features. That would be ridiculous. He's doing training from version 4 with version 6 because he skipped, like I said, he skipped 5. There wasn't hardly anything there at all. But so it's on, if you want to get it, if you want to get that, it's over there at Ripple Training. Let me pull it up one more time since we're talking about it. So here it is over here at Ripple Training. And you can get it $20 off FCP Core-20. FCP Core-20. And you get 20 off. $20. That's a lot. That's not 20%, it's $20. I think that's only for a week or 2. That's cool. Evers Nature Photography says, hello from Denmark. How you doing? Glad you could join us. So move an event into its own library. If you have an event, say you have 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 events in a library, and you want to move that event to its own library, maybe you want to put it on an SSD drive, or you want to share it with somebody, or you just want its own copy, that's easy to do in Final Cut. Now, it used to be much harder. Let's go, where in the heck's Final Cut? There we go. So I'm going to open this up. Turn that off. So I have, let's just say I have this. I want to take the travel library main, and I want to make it in its own library. It's right now it's in the Final Cut TV library, but I want to make it in its own library. Right click, copy event to library. New library. Now, when you click that, you get new options that came in 10.4.9. Well, first I'm going to name it. And I'm going to save it in my movies folder. Now, before I save it, so here's what I typically do. When I name something, this case Travel Library 2, I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to make a new folder, create the folder, and then save the library inside of that folder. I do that all the time. That way, if I have media or I have text files that I can't open in Final Cut Pro, I can save everything. Billing, if I want to keep track of my billing, I keep everything inside of that master folder. So the master folder is inside the movies. This is the folder, and inside the folder is the actual library. Now I'm going to save, and then we have options. Now we have options. Now the options are, let me see if I can zoom in. Yeah, I can zoom in. Well, I can only zoom in so far. The options are copy the event to library, Travel Library 2. Select items will be copied to the storage location for the library, Travel Library 2. You can include original, optimized, or proxy media, or copy the event only without media. So that's how you would do that if you wanted to, if you had the media, everybody has the media, but just want to copy the project file, the library file. That's one of the ways you can do that. You can copy event without media, but I want media typically. So original media, optimized media, proxy media, copy media stored in external locations. How many times have I copied a library or event and I forgot I had some files stored somewhere else on my desktop or whatever, and it didn't have them when I opened it up. And media destination, right now it's media in library, but I can modify those settings before I switch over as I'm doing the copy. I'm not going to copy now because I'm not really doing it. I'm just doing it to show you. So we have another comment here. Any one bug when you make a duplicate project and next do a preview file using the spacebar in the browser library files is resolved. I'm not quite sure. Bug when you make a duplicate project and next do a preview file using the spacebar in browser files. I'm not sure what you mean. I'm not sure what you mean there, Jorge. Duplicate project and next do a preview file using the spacebar in the browser. Do you mean, are you expecting that project file to play? Because it's not going to do that. No problem. I'm just trying to get a clarification for you. Just maybe reword that a little bit and we'll put it back in there. This is one of I enjoy being amused. This is one of the amusements that I got this week. I saw this on a Final Cut Facebook page. Does anyone know where I can find a buffering animation? Think like bad internet for streaming, where your TV pauses and there's a spinning wheel. And the comment was, just launch Premiere Pro. That will give you the spinning wheel. That was, I got a kick out of that one. I saved it. I don't use Premiere. I haven't used it for years, so I don't know exactly what that is. So Jorge says, no, it jumps to the old project. I see what you're saying. Yeah, listen, the browser needs so much work in Final Cut. It's like, don't they have a browser crew that just works on the browser? There's so much nonsense going on there. Shift F in the timeline is supposed to, reveal in Finder, and You don't know where it is. It's there somewhere, but you can't see it. It should jump to the center, attention, highlight the clip. The playhead should be highlighted, but you just have no idea where it is. So what you're saying, it jumps to the old project. I see. Yeah, well, that's, I don't know what's going on with that. I mean, the browser got a little bit of love with the column layouts, but it hasn't seen much improvement for years and years and years. So what do you expect in 2022? All the listeners, do you expect that we're going to see a substantial update to Final Cut Pro, or are they just going to drab 2 features, 1.5 features, 1.25 features? This feature requires an iPhone 13 Pro. This feature is only for certain editors. No, that's not what I hope they're doing. But once again, if that's what they do, they're meeting my expectations. My expectations are like mid-level. So if they just do that, they're meeting my expectations. If they do something better, the expectations will be much higher. What do you think? What do you think in 2022? We have possibly NAB coming up. We'll have to wait and see. Possibly. Don't know for sure, but it very well could be. %. There we go. So, any more tips and tricks? I think I'm just about out. I give you an hour's worth. We got a few from the crowd. There's a couple more. Let me see if I have a couple more. 1 or 2 more. I'll have to think for a second. So, if you don't use window layouts, you should be using those as well. So I have keyboard shortcut. I have my own keyboard shortcut to open and close the side panels here. I have one keyboard shortcut to do this. Apple's is, let me see, a little clunky for me. So if you look at my hand, I have the Control, Shift, and Z key. Control, Shift, and Z opens and closes. So basically, I keep my 2 fingers rested on Control and Shift and hit the Z key, and opens and closes that side panel. Apple is, I think it's Command and this key, and then there's Control, Shift, and 1, I think, or something. But I just do this. Much easier for me to do. I use customized keyboard shortcuts all the time. All the time. So what do you think? What do you think? We're getting into the we have the dog days of summer in America. That's what we call the summertime, when people are on vacation. There's not much happening. January is typically a very slow month. Just getting off of New Year's holidays, getting off of Christmas. Very, very slow. This has been a very, very slow month. I think we've gotten one update to Final Cut in January, and that was a bug fix from something that came out in December, I think, if I'm not mistaken. I don't see any birds out there. Jorge says, I think the Final Cut Pro team should invest the time in the collaborative mode, multi-user edit in the same project, and also in cataloging a system in Camtero software. So do you think Do you think that they're working on collaboration? That's a big request. Everybody's talking about it. Collaboration, collaboration, collaboration. In the age of COVID, everybody is collaborating everywhere. Everybody's collaborating. Editors collaborate online, collaborate online. They certainly should be working on something like that. Now, if they come out with a big collaboration update plus other features, I'm going to be going, my expectations are now going to be raised again. So let's see if that happens. NAB is coming up. I don't know if Apple's going to be there, but I tell you what, if they have a new update coming out, and I just have a feeling that they do, I don't mean one feature. I don't mean like 6 came out and it was one feature. And then there was a feature that requires an iPhone 13. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a bigger update with more features that people have been requesting for years. I have a feeling that might be happening. Am I expecting it? No, my expectations are here, mid-level. I still like Final Cut Pro. What am I doing here talking about if I don't like it? Of course I like it. It's a nice, comfortable, old, worn shoe. I mean, when I go get my shoes, and I have a brand new pair of shoes, and I have a pair of fancy running shoes, I'm going to put my comfortable pair on that I have broken in. Yeah, they're not that exciting, but I go to them all the time. Daniel Suzuki says, I remapped Z as zoom in and Option Z as zoom out, made my workflow faster. There you go. But Daniel, Resolve has Shift Z and Shift Z zooms in and zooms out. The same keyboard shortcut. Shift Z zooms in, Shift Z zooms back to the previous zoom level at the previous playhead location in Resolve. That's what I like to see. I use Shift Z all the time, but you're right. Option Z is zoom out. So zoom in, zoom out, that's a good one. And let me show you what I've done. For zooming in and out, because I do it all the time. So my hand is typically on J, K, and L right here. J, K, L, J, K, L, J, K, L. So instead of taking my hand off the keyboard and going over to the Z key, J, K, L, right here, I zoom in and zoom out, or whatever that is, the opposite way. Right next to J, K, and L. I don't even have to look at my hands. I don't have to look at the keyboard. This is the way I zoom in and out. This is my custom version. Anything that I do right here, I don't have to look. I don't have to look at the keyboard. I know this is it. Zoom. Zoom out. Zoom in. Zoom out without changing my hand position or looking at the keyboard. That's what I do with zoom. I do it all the time. Next to zoom is the H key, right? Right here, my little pinky, the H key. That's deselect for me. So deselect, see? Select, deselect. Because these are things that I do all the time. J, K, and L, backwards, stop, forwards, stop, triple tap, faster and faster. But I use zoom in and zoom out. Right there. And I use deselect with the H key right there. I never use the hand tool that they have programmed to the H key. The more I use something, the more I map it to single keyboard shortcuts. We have another comment here about the Super Meet, NAB, Thomas Collins. I hear that Dan Berube might be planning a Super Meet this year in Las Vegas. I love the Final Cut Pro community who are always there, and I miss my breakfast with my Final Cut family at the Pepper Mill. Absolutely. Absolutely. So I talked to Dan. Let me just see if I can pull this up. Let me see if I can pull this up easily. Yeah, here it is. So let me go to the graphics page, your favorite graphic, this one, and I'll pull this one up. So here's what we got. Dan says, we're off on a business trip to Vegas to do a site visit of a new outdoor venue for our Super Meet 2022 at NAB show on Sunday, April the 24th. Yes, now on Sunday. Now on Sunday, and it's Sunday, April 24th, and he's checking out an outdoor venue. He didn't say it's definitely going to be an outdoor venue. He said he's checking out an outdoor venue. So when he's saying outdoor, it's probably one of the parking lots they have with tent over it. So if it's raining or drizzling or whatever, people aren't getting wet. But it's outdoors. People maybe feel a little more comfortable with the COVID situation being outdoors. So we will have Dan Berube on the show on Final Cut TV once he has more information about the Super Meet. But right now it's scheduled the last Sunday in April. NAB, I will have to see what happens. I probably will be going if things progressively get better for the next 3 months. It's 3 months away. If the COVID situation gets progressively better the way it's headed, I will consider going. And if I go, I will be reporting live all day, not continuous, but I mean 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there, 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there. And I'll be doing filming, of course, and I'll get those films and I'll assemble them and I'll put them back when I go live in the evenings. I go in my hotel room, and this is why I got this MacBook Pro. This is one of the reasons I got this MacBook Pro is when I travel. I have a very powerful machine, and I can broadcast, and I got a 1080p camera now. Instead of a crappy 720p camera, finally, we got 1080p camera. Something else that really surprised me about this MacBook Pro, 2 things. The audio speakers are really, really good. I really like them a lot, to the point where I stopped using my studio speakers. Now, I'm not doing anything mission critical. I'm not mixing a band or anything. But for general purpose, I use the speakers in my MacBook Pro now. I took those other speakers off and added my Mac Pro third screen over to my right. And I have 3 screens now, and then my 2 screens up top, and then I use the MacBook Pro screen. But the audio on these MacBook Pros is phenomenal. I am shocked what they've done with it. The audio quality is great. The speakers are great. And the microphone's not bad either. Now, I turn it up louder because I like my audio loud. And it doesn't have this what I have right here has a noise gate on. Let me see. I'll pull that up real quick for everybody. It has a noise gate on it. So, for example, this has a noise gate right here. You can see it next to my head. So when I talk, it opens up, and when I don't talk, it closes. This is software-based, but it's very, very effective. It's as close as you can get to real hardware emulation. But anyway, Daniel says, I also remapped for previous edit and for next edit. This helps edit clips without moving my mouse away from the inspector area. Absolutely. Absolutely. Listen, here's what I do. You cannot delete the default keyboards shortcuts. You can't do it. Final Cut won't let you. So they're always available. You have to make a copy. You cannot change or edit or delete the default. So the more I use something, the more the keyboard shortcut, the more I will map it to single key shortcuts. Single key shortcuts. I'm much faster at it. Like I said, zoom in, zoom out, and deselect, I do use all the time. So they are single key shortcuts right next to J, K, and L for me. There's some other ones I use as well. In Logic, there's a couple of delete options you have. You can ripple left, ripple right and stuff, and I use, in Logic, depending on, let me just think a second here. Depending on what I'm doing, sometimes I want to leave a hole in the timeline, and sometimes I want the timeline to close up. It's two different keyboard shortcuts. I have them mapped so I hit one and it closes, and I hit the other. Do I need to hit the other? I can't remember right now. But sometimes it closes like a magnetic timeline. It ripples left, and sometimes it leaves a gap. I do both. So that's what I like. I like to be able to customize things. So the keyboard shortcuts are one of those. All right. Do we have anything else? Let me just check. I think that's it for today. If you let you have some more shortcuts or any other Final Cut Pro comments, look, I'm coming on here to keep the momentum going with Final Cut Pro. Keep the momentum going. It's not in the spotlight anywhere except for Ripple's come out with a new training and future media concepts. Let's keep it going. That's what I try to do. The podcast I have, Final Cut Pro Radio, as a matter of fact, I got to get it done for coming up. Let me just do something here. I'm going to pull this up. I love this app that I subscribe to. It's fantastic application, especially for editing. Tip of the day, that's what it is. I don't want the tip of the day. So let me just pull this. Let me just see if it'll shrink down. Yeah, it will shrink down here. So I love editing this. I love this. Let me just pull this up. Page me. So this is Descript. Let me get this a little bit smaller. This is an app called Descript. Look what it does. It transcribes the audio. It transcribes my audio, and I can play it. Top 10 requests for Final Cut Pro, the next version of Final Cut Pro. So, but look, when I go to edit, I can edit with text. If I wanted to delete this, I can delete it here. It's highlighted down here. And if I delete it, the text is deleted and the timeline, the waveform is deleted, both the audio files. I understand there's other things that do that. I know Lumberjack has a system, but this does the transcription in-house. So you don't have to send the transcription out somewhere. That's only the beginning. That's only the beginning. Look down here in the timeline. The transcription goes right above the audio waveforms. So I can take this and drag it, and that's editing the audio. If I want to leave a gap, I move it right, and it leaves a gap. It also does audiograms and a bunch of other things. I really, really like this, especially for editing audio, like right here, for example. I can see there's a gap there. I can see this little blip there. I can just take this word and drag it over, and it edits the audio file. It is one of the best ways to edit audio I've ever seen. And you can export to Final Cut Pro, Logic, Pro Tools, Adobe Audition, Adobe Premiere. You can export a text file, subtitles, audio, audiogram. Audiogram's very, very cool. I really like it. Descript, D-E-S-C-R-I-P-T is what it is. Great, great application. They just added some more features. Very good app. Nice tip. Yeah, it's a really great, it's for audio. It does video too. And you can do audio and video, and you can also do multi-track. It does multi-track. So if I have 4 or 5 or 6, they have a multi-track editor that you can edit a multi-track the same way you edit the one. I'm not going to go into a complete tutorial on it, but I just wanted to show you. I think editing by dragging the words right and left is just the coolest darn thing. And you can, like I said, you can edit the text. Lumberjack has something like that, but this Descript, I think I'm paying $10 a month, something like that, on a yearly basis. It does the transcriptions too. You get up to 10 hours of transcriptions for that per month, I think. And you can upload video and or audio. I use it for audio. I don't do much with video, that much. It works in other languages? I think so. I think there's a trial available. Go ahead and get the trial and try it out, or just ask them a question. Descript.com. All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in today. I have a little monitor in the back. I've added that. I might keep it. It doesn't seem to bother me. I haven't really noticed this till just now. But don't forget, I have the book of excuses right here. This is the book of excuses. When people offer me excuses why Final Cut's not updating like it used to, I list them right in here. I have a complete book. Listen, if you're satisfied, some people are. They say Final Cut is fine with 1 or 2 updates every full number. That's fine. That's fine. If it satisfies you, it's fantastic. It does not satisfy me. And it will never satisfy me. The slow pace that they've had for the last 3 years. They've done some neat stuff. 10.4.9 was very cool. The browser column customization and saving recall browser layouts, very cool. The main feature in 10.6 was the tracking feature. That one feature is a big, big feature. Okay? But it's not more, it's only one feature. It's only one feature. That's like when they gave us 3D text. That's all there was in the update. Just 3D text. Nothing else. No, not good enough. If it's good enough for you, that's fine. That's fine. It's not good enough for me. I'm right about here, mid-level. But I still use Final Cut. It's still my favorite NLE, so that's what I'm doing here. Trying to raise some, keeping the interest going in Final Cut. January. It's like the dog days of winter. All right, everyone. I'm going to head out of here. If you have any more tips, go ahead and shout them out. If not, I will be leaving and getting ready for my dinner. It's, well, actually not yet. It's only 3:30 on the East Coast. I'm going to relax for a little bit, do some other things. If you want to add any excuses to the Final Cut Pro team's reasons why they're not getting anything done, send them in and I'll put them in the book. I got a master book there. I'm only teasing the team, of course. I think and hope that they're working hard for us users. A little prodding every once in a while doesn't hurt. We all love the Final Cut Pro team, right? We love you, love the guys and the gals on that team. But we are waiting on a bigger update than you've shown us for 10.5 and 10.6. All right? Okay, everybody. My name's Richard Taylor. Let me do one more thing. Oh, here we go. Well, you know about this. YouTube, youtube.com, Richard Taylor TV. Everything's backwards. That's where you're probably watching right now. We also have a Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/Final Cut Pro Radio TV. All right. Those are the two places, social media. On Twitter, of course, it's Final Cut Pro Radio. And you can follow me, just Richard Taylor TV. Keep up the prodding. Thanks. Listen, I think most people want some bigger updates coming forward, so I'm going to keep on prodding in a friendly manner. This is not, I'm just being realistic. This is what I would like to see. Thanks for the tips, everyone. I appreciate everybody stopping in. If anything happens, if there's any update to Final Cut Pro, maybe you're an NAB over the next 3 or 4 months. I know Future Media has these classes coming out. Steve Martin just released a Final Cut Pro 6 core training tutorial. So I haven't seen it. It's probably not for me. I'm not going to be buying that for me personally, but that doesn't mean I would recommend it to a lot of people. So maybe at some point I'll get a look at it and do a mini review. I'm not big on doing big reviews because it takes too much of my time. But anyway, it's cold here. It's only 20-some degrees. No, it's only 34 degrees right now. It was 12 degrees when I woke up this morning. Fired up the wood-burning stove, and here we are. Thanks, everyone, for showing up today. I appreciate it, and don't forget to subscribe over there at YouTube. Click to subscribe, enable notifications. Don't forget that. And until the next show, this is Richard Taylor. I'll have a new version of Final Cut Pro Radio podcast out, hopefully within a couple of days. I think I had 27th. I got to get it out before the end of the month.